So the United States is now engaged in another war, aided by Israel attacking Iran. And many people are happy, overjoyed maybe at the death of Iran's leader and the possibility that this will result in a lasting regime change, more humanitarian, kinder, gentler government. May it be so. Kinder, better place free of oppressive morality and with peace for all. And would that it was possible to accept that these attacking forces were acting solely from the benign intention to liberate the people of Iran from a harsh and brutal dictatorship and bring them into the blessings of liberal democracy and economic liberty, are that our, as include our, self-interest has little to do with this, that we, US, are just trying to restore justice and make the world better for all. But I think probably we're all old enough now to see that what I've offered up as possible motivations is nothing but a pack of lies. And I remember as a young boy being mesmerized at how wonderful it was to be born into this world of goodness where we had truth and angels on our side. Unfortunately, that world seems to have vaporized around me, thankfully. Reminds me of the Iraq War, which is not such a long time ago, where the invasion was premised on the existence of hidden weapons of mass destruction that the government knew didn't exist, wrapping itself in the cloak of morality, seeking on the basis of seeking a better place for all. But now there's not even a pretense of that. Remember the horror show in Vietnam as a kid, where at one time I saw our side, Canada, the US, Europe, as good guys, and Russia and China, the Eastern Bloc, as just bad guys, followed by the horrors in Guatemala and El Salvador and Afghanistan, Iraq and Venezuela. And I tried to turn away from seeing these good guys and bad guys in conflict, good guys who say that this is a just and tactical strike to change a suppressive regime, do what's right. But I really and truly have to say that the truth I see is that it's manifestation of greed and self-interest. Greed, perceiving liberation, violence, and just war as noble, wraps itself in a cloak of liberation, violence, and a just war. Mostly, though, it's a slim pretense, and as far as I can see, these guys are a bunch of bandits, robbers. Is there such a thing as a just war? Is there a just war for who? Because any war has its karmic consequences. Suffering, hatred, enmity continues for generations. Seeing it sometimes thousands of years, even. Generation by generation. So I pray. I actually do pray. Believe it or not, not a very, maybe not a very good thing for a Zen teacher to say, but I pray. My form of prayer in my heart, my own heart, to soften some leathery places. I pray to whatever beneficent forces there may be in the universe for some lasting regime change. I pray for an end to hunger. I pray that we can open borders to people fleeing conflicts and seeking a safe place for themselves and their family. Safe place. Is there a safe place somewhere? Ask yourself that. Is there a safe place? Canada, maybe? Is there a place that's safe from suffering in all its varieties? Is there a place that's safe from hunger? A place that's safe from sickness? A place that's free from old age? A place that's free from death? A place that's free from conflict? A place that's free from greed, place that's free from all of these various varieties of dukkha, suffering. Maybe, maybe, Pie in the Sky said that in the fullness of time, Milarepa will appear as the Buddha to come, and that all will become right and good, and unicorns will fly through the air floating rainbows. I'm pretty doubtful, notwithstanding all the talk of utopia from all these smart vendors of AI technology. That sounds pretty cynical, and there's again not much to be proud of that as a Zen teacher, but I feel like I want to break something sometimes. But I reflect on it, and I also have to, when I get past that I ask myself, what will be the consequences of this? It seems like such a horror show in 1,000 years, in 10,000 years. What will be the consequences of this? Who is it? What will this? What seems like evil now? What will be the consequences of it? It's a self-regulating. This whole works. This jade, gold cloth being spun on this jade loom is a self-regulating process. So, is there a safe place? Sometimes the most dangerous place may be the safest place. In the 8th century, there was a Zen master who lived and meditated in a tall pine tree, maybe somewhat like the tree fort that we have down at the monastery, where you can sit sesshin, 60 feet up in the air on this little platform, which is actually quite a magnificent experience. In the 8th century, there was a Zen master who lived and meditated in a tall pine tree. When a government official came and saw this, he warned him of the danger of living in a tree. And this guy was called the Bird's Nest Roshi. And Bird's Nest Roshi yelled down and replied that the official's political life was far more dangerous than his life up in the tree. And he was urged to come down because of the danger of falling and serious harm. He said, "I'm safe up here, safe from worldly dangers. I got a refuge here." Refuge. People who've taken Jukai, I mean, we all chant. We're going to be chanting, doing a chanting service. We chant that I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in the original Pali when we do that. So it's a wonderful thing to find that refuge. It's a wonderful thing to find that refuge within. There's a poem that I'm very fond of by Joshu, the amazing Joshu, and he says, "A wood Buddha cannot pass through fire. A clay Buddha can't pass through water. Don't dissolve. No Buddha will burn. A brass Buddha can't pass through a furnace. I don't know what will happen to the concrete Buddha up there, but something will happen to it." He says, the only enduring Buddha within which refuge can be taken is the Buddha that lies within your own Buddha nature. If a safe place exists, there is only one place it exists, and that is right here and now. Danger lies in the future, what might happen. The Bird's Nest Roshi emphasizes this simple wisdom. Finding this still home, this safe place of refuge. The Buddha said, better to win a single battle over yourself than 1,000 battles with your enemies. Usually we think, I want to dominate. I want to be the one. I don't want any. I'll just dominate all the problems, all the aversions I have in my life. Any desire, I'll satisfy. Get rid of all the aversions, and then I'll last be happy. But of course, there's the fear then of things arising again and losing something, better to win the single battle of ourselves. And from that ground, there's at least a possibility of compassionate action in response to the suffering of others. How can I help? What then should I do? And the answer always comes echoing back. Pick up a broom and start sweeping like where we are. I mean, there's first aid that you can use, immediate first aid. You're welcome to take up Max's, my grandson Max's, rule of the threes, which works very well for him. Identify, feel into three things you can see, three objects: Mukugyo, bench, bell. And three things you can hear: nada, sound, voice, or conditioning system. And the three things you can feel: foot, palm of the hand, tongue. And then take 3 deep breaths. That's behavior, behavioral technique, or modified a little bit, taking 3 deep breaths. They're skillful. But ultimately, to find this place of ease in a world seemingly on fire and having gone crazy, you have to discover for yourself this still place within yourself. This place that you can't, this still point, which is before thought, which is free of anxiety and suffering, which is at peace and not knocked over or overwhelmed by chaos, whatever it may be, where you can truly, like Ryokan, the great Zen poet, say, being with an earthquake just as it is okay. Being with an earthquake just as it is okay. And from that ground, you can respond without being caught up ourselves in whatever story we're telling ourselves. The story about the war, about the refugee crisis, about the climate crisis, which is now on the back burner while we protect our rich life stories that have led to this crisis. The still point isn't a place to hide out. It's a mind ground of all being. It's true wisdom. It's a ground of true wisdom and compassion. It's a ground from which enlightened response to circumstances arise. It's the ground from which compassionate response arises. What is being asked of me to take care of in this one body we all participate in right here and now? It's always right here and now. Otherwise, it's making plans for the future. Life is what happens when we're right here, right now. What is being asked? What is being asked? We have to respond. It used to be back in the day, people would say, no, you have to wait until you're wise and enlightened, because otherwise, who knows, you just start seeing clearly. But it doesn't work like that. If we're going to wait for some state of all-encompassing wisdom and enlightenment, we'll never respond. We'll never respond. You've got to respond to what presents it. That's the Genjo koan of your life. Now. And how do you respond? How do you respond with wisdom and compassion? If we wait for some state of all-encompassing wisdom and enlightenment, as I say, we'll never respond. But it's also no good to respond from a place of conceptual thinking. So that's too often the corresponding trap that people fall into. We have some good idea about fixing what's wrong. We need more electric cars. No, we need hydrogen cars. No, we need more gas cars. We need to get rid of this. We're just not ready for that yet. We need to take care of the economy first. It's exactly this kind of thinking, thinking that the world is broken, that it's gotten into this mess. The world is not broken. The world being broken is a thought we have that there is something wrong with this state of affairs, which is the universe just as it is. But when I say that we have to respond with this, how do you go about doing that? And I'm always very drawn by these 3 tenets of the Zen Peacemaker Foundation that was founded by the late great Bernie Glassman. First, the first tenet, which corresponds with or saying take refuge in Buddha, is we take refuge in not knowing. Taking refuge in not knowing. Taking refuge means to throw yourself into that, to accept that, to open up to this place. When you enter into not knowing, it's spacious. There's no, you're not coming, okay, how am I getting, it's not like things are closing up around and say, I don't know. And to hold that openly and to see what presents it, to see whether something arises out of that on its own. Where? Still, vast. Second, to bear witness. Second ten is to bear witness. To look, to feel it in your heart, to actually look and to judge. Not to judge. I say not to judge. For me, it's this, the way it feels in my own mind. As a litigation lawyer for many years, it's I set up this court of right and wrong in my mind. I set up this court of right and wrong and judging in my mind. And instead, let it be a temple. This court of right and wrong. Let it be a temple of compassion and insight. And then thirdly, bearing witness. So you actually look. So Tetsugen Glassman used to conduct these tours to the Nazi death camps in Poland and Germany, these other places. They would go and they would spend time meditating in these camps, with the ovens, meditating wherever it was, looking, going to different places, and trying to where these horror shows existed, and to bear witness, to actually feel into that, and then from that place see what kind of action is being called, presents itself. So if we address violence with violence, how can the result be other than further violence now or in the future? We've seen so much that so many parts of the world. Have you ever seen, the question for me, and I'll ask you this, ask yourself, I used to do this when I was a lawyer, have you ever seen two angry people resolve anything? Ever? If you have, I would really like to know about it, because there may be some secret in there I'd really like to know. I haven't seen it. I'm not saying it's impossible, I just haven't seen it. What about a victorious outcome? Is it just war? We said, well, what does a just war mean? From whose side? Is God on my side? Is God on your side? What a victorious outcome look like? Because the Buddha in one of the sutras says, victory breeds enmity. The defeated sleep badly. The peaceful sleep at ease, having left victory and defeat behind. But victory breeds enmity. The defeated sleep badly. And quite frankly, over time, the victors start to sleep badly as well, because the memory of that defeat is sows little seed crystals in the sons and daughters of the defeated. So I practice turning away from good and bad. I practice turning away. I'm not saying those thoughts don't arise in my mind. They do, as I say. I practice turning away from good and bad. I practice turning away from right and wrong. And more, I try to say maybe. Maybe. Acknowledging the views of others without engaging in conflict. So what are the guardrails, I love that phrase, on such spontaneous resolve? Not to kill, not to do violence or anger, not to steal. To keep our eyes wide open and not turn away. To feel the pain of others, ourselves. To feel the pain of others as ourselves. Not to prefer ourselves over others. To genuinely act with this mind of what the Christians call agape, this mind of loving kindness and compassion for all, without the good guys and the bad guys. In the 60s, there used to be this expression that fighting for peace was like fucking for virginity. Peace can't be established externally by fighting. It can only be cultivated as peace within ourselves and by letting go of anger and greed. There's no path to peace. Peace is the path. It doesn't mean being a wimp. One of my heroes is Gandhi. I could not believe the courage, a guy who started out as a litigation lawyer in South Africa. I could not believe the courage of this guy in the face of British horror shows, took my daughter to the alley in uh, the Punjab, where the British lured these thousands of um, protesters into this square and set up machine guns, and then machine gunned all of them down. As a lesson to the people who are striving for liberation within India. Do you have the courage to speak truth to power? Of non-violent protest, of being with others in their pain and suffering without trying to fix what is not in the nature to be fixed? This is from the Dhammapada. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with an impure mind, and trouble will follow you, as the wheel follows the ox that drives the cart. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. Speak or act with a pure mind, and happiness will follow you as your shadow unshakable. Look how he abused me and beat me. Look how he threw me down and robbed me. You live with such thoughts, and you live in hate. Look how he abused me and beat me, how he threw me down and robbed me. Abandon such thoughts, forgive such thoughts, and live in love and ease. In this world, hate has never yet dispelled hate. Only love dispels hate. That's the law, ancient and exhaustible. How do you ever judge who is the moral right on their side? How this plays out, what the impossibly vast network of cause and effect in this everywhere machine, this everything machine is, that has led to these events happening here. Confirming Faith Mind says, stop trying to judge good and bad and right and wrong. A heavy burden just weighs you down in your life and your practice. So we have to abandon this court of right and wrong. We preside over in our minds and trade it for a court with compassion for all, including the mullahs and military lords of war whose hearts are not yet big enough to really open to the suffering they're creating. Court of compassion for all. The late, magnificent Thich Nhat Hanh, it was said more than once that if there was a Buddha in our generation, it was Thich Nhat Hanh. Amazing as I talk about Vietnamese monk during this Vietnamese war, speaking truth to power. One of his brother monks immolating himself. I remember seeing that as a boy and just being overwhelmed. Like, what? Why? If anything sparked for me, like, what is going on here? Then I remember during the Iraq War, a number of people immolating themselves. And it was like that much interest. It's fascinating. The times have changed. But Thich Nhat Hanh had a helpful way of looking at the perspective. He said, you can't hold a view of goodness without picking up a view of badness as opposite to that goodness. Goodness can't exist without badness. There's a lovely story that he created a false sutra about Mara, the devil in Buddhism. It's a tempter that arises in your mind, coming to meet the Buddha. And Ananda just beside him, oh my God, he can't meet the Buddha. What's going to happen? You're the evil guy. We don't want to see you. And the Buddha says, no, come on in, Mara. You're my friend. And Mara says, look, I am sick and tired of being Mara. This is a tough show. I don't want it. People are all the time, complaining about me. My little minor minions don't. My dancing girls have gone off to who knows where, and he said, I'm done with it. And the Buddha said, no, Mara. He said, we're in this together. He said, you think it's easy being a Buddha? How people have corrupted my teachings and what they say it stands for. And now they make T-shirts with pictures of me on it and cute little saying. He said, we're in this together. This is all your mind. The mind of each and every one of you has to be vast enough and open enough to include it all. It contains it all. And in particular, you cannot try to chase away or drive undercover what you see as the bad or the evil or the nasty parts of yourself. You can't set the good part of the mind to go to war with the bad part of the mind. You have to practice non-opposition, practice goodness, but at the same time to be able to hold when it arises all of those hurt places, all of those places that are not yet, the light hasn't shone into, all of those negative emotions, all of those fears and whatever they are, not to pound on them and say, no, you're bad, you're wrong, I can't acknowledge that, people can't see that in me. It's have to be big enough to hold it all. So he often, Thich Nhat Hanh often used the analogy of a stick. He talked about how everything is interconnected, fundamentally interconnected. So many wise ones have done that. John Muir, great American naturalist, once said, he said, if you pull on a loose thread anywhere, I'm misquoting, but you pull on a loose thread anywhere, you'll pretty soon find that it's hitched to everything in the world. There is this fundamental net of interconnectedness. It is this one body mind. It's this one universal life, which is manifesting in all of these different ways. It's all fundamentally interconnected. And so Thich Nhat Hanh used the analogy of a stick to explain that you can't pick up one end, like the good end. I just want the good end without picking up the other end, the bad end. No, I don't want the bad end, but they're both interconnected and they exist together. They interbe. And if you say, okay, well, no, I just want this good end, I don't want this bad end, you break off the bad end, you put down, well, now we still got the bad end. I got hold of the good end. The bad end's here now. There's just no, there's no end to it. Well, there's a teaching which says when we do gasho like this, it's a precept against the kleshas. It's this klesha. It's like a dialectic with the precepts. The forces of good that we ask into our lives that we practice with, and there's this tension that holds in them. So they have to interbe. Without bad, there's no understanding of good. It's like, so there's a saying that gets picked up in the sutras over and over again, that we abide in purity, we abide in emptiness like a lotus in muddy water. So we don't see many lotuses around here, but it's actually magnificent. It's some mud puddle pond, all covered with lily pads, and this absolutely exquisite lotus that rises up out of this muddy water, and in all its beauty and purity. So that's us. You can't. Human beings come out of the ground of suffering. They come out of the ground of samsara. It's not a matter of cutting it away. It's a matter of arising out of it. And then it's always a matter of, how can I serve right now? How can I say, it's not a matter, how can I get free? How can I get free of this? And then go off to some happy place where I'm always happy. Because as long as you recognize this oneness of all things, you recognize it's this one life, you recognize that it's no good for me to be, I'm not really free all on my own if this is my brother over here that's so in chains. It just doesn't work like that. He's in chains, I'm in chains. It's one life. It's one, and there's an old saying that the Dharma, the Mahayana practice, it's a bus. It doesn't leave until everybody's on it. Everybody's got to be on it. It takes everybody. It doesn't go. Chosen in one of her books talks about that too often people practicing are like, rowers in one of these galleys, and one of them rowing twice as hard as everybody else because he wants to get there first. It's just crazy. We either all get there or nobody gets there. So it's true that right view, we often talk about right view, involves looking deeply into reality and letting go of our conceptual perspective to see the truth of this one body mind that is our life. To see that things are not this duality of being or non-being, good or evil, but the deepest way to touch ultimate reality is to remove these notions, to see this one thing which we already are. And that we deceive ourselves. Maizumi Roshi currently always used to say, the problem is, the fundamental problem with the Dharma is we're really all ophthalmologists. You're trying to remove eye disease. And I love this double entendre, this eye disease of, yeah, you have diseased eyes, but really the disease of the eye is this eye. It's eye disease in terms of we just can't get past the I, me, and mine. So many problems arise from wrong perception, mistaking our interpretations of reality. And it's radical mindful awareness. It's a practice of shikantaza. It's a practice of awareness that's a gist of all of the practice. It's a gist of all of the practice. It's an old saying that if you're practicing zazen, when you're practicing zazen, the moment of practicing zazen, the precepts keep themselves. It's something to reflect on. Why do the precepts keep themselves? How can you say that? Why is it? So we have to distinguish and say that we have to be open. We have to be inclusive of. We have to include Donald Trump. We have to include these warlords in our container. We have to include these warlords in our heart. We have to include these warlords in this practice of compassion, because it's all part of this one life. So that we can see over time that our views, instead of being chopped up in good and bad, we can see actions arising from greed or hatred and ignorance, which causes suffering, and actions rooted in understanding, compassion, and mindfulness. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote a poem. It's magnificent, quite frankly. I discovered it a long time ago. It's absolutely beautiful. It's called "Please Call Me by My True Names." He says, "Do not say that I'll depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. Look deeply. Every second, I'm arriving to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with still fragile wings, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I'm the mayfly metamorphosing on the surface of the river, and I'm a bird which, when spring comes, arrives in time to eat the mayfly. I'm a frog swimming happily in the clear water of a pond, and I'm the grass snake that silently feeds itself on the frog. I'm the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo stalks, and I'm the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I'm the 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pilot. And I'm the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I'm a member of the Politburo with plenty of power in my hands, and I'm the man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people, dying slowly in a forced labor camp. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast it fills the four oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can hear that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true names, so I can wake up, and so that the door of my heart can be left open, the door of compassion. Sometimes it feels to me that if I just knew the facts, remember that when I was a teenager, if I just knew what was it, if I just knew somebody could just tell me what the path was, how to make a decision here, what the actual facts were that of the situation. If I knew the facts of the situation, I'd be able to act appropriately and compassionately. But the problem is there are no facts. There are no facts. In the words of Norman Mailer, facts are just intensified fantasies. That'd be right. The world in which we live in too much of the time is a world whose foundation is dualistic consciousness, right and wrong, good and bad, a world of facts, this is this, that is that. I experience myself in my mind, as a body perceiving something out there that's separate from me. However, what the eyes see, the ears hear, the nose smells, the body touches and feels, the tongue tastes, none of them are experienced directly by us. None of that is experienced directly by you. And it's a thought experiment to realize that. You're experiencing your brain activity. It's the most you know about. We only experience our vague, conceptualized version of what the sense organs experience. And then we chop it up with language. So Doe and I were walking, went on a magnificent hike yesterday, and we were walking down by Rice Lake. And I said, just look at this for a minute. And it was just this exquisite, I don't know how you describe it. It was like a cathedral. It was a cathedral, brown and green, rising up with these magnificent pillars and the, the carpet of green moss, and then all the plants, each one. And quickly, there was this one little leaf I was looking at with a drop of water on it. You could have written 50 pages on that leaf and not touched it, any more than you can describe for somebody that tasted chocolate to somebody who's never known sweet. Words can't reach it. How do you describe the sun to somebody who's blind and is unable to feel, can't feel round, has an auditory process, but how could you make that real for that person? This language doesn't touch it. Language is a different order of reality. And the problem is, as Uchiyama Roshi said, we hold the world in a fist of thought. We think that we're having this world, this conversation, that that's a real world. When you shut up, when you actually be quiet and are still, and you step into this, the wonder and amazement of this, the reality of what's happening here, it's a different matter. And we tell ourselves similar stories with thought. We have these stories about our lives, our relationships, our traumas, our work, our home, politics. The story of Hoban, now in 70 chapters. The story of Hoban and the time he was hard done by. The story of Hoban, that time where he didn't mean to do that. The story of Hoban, none of it exists. It doesn't exist. It exists as some intellectual mind fart that you captured down. What exists is this here, right here and now. It's all of life takes place right here, right now. Nothing else exists. Future is something that may be or may not be. No hope and fear in the future. The past is something, maybe it's remorse, maybe it's, oh, that was really wrong. But when we hold the world in a fist of thought, we only experience our vague, conceptualized version of the reality we attend to. A replica, mental replica of the experience, the actual reality of which is being experienced. The truth is, all of this doesn't exist on its own self. It's not that you have to somehow get out and kind of somehow get past this to the underlying reality. There is no underlying reality. This is it. This is it right here and now. And it's fundamentally empty. It's not that emptiness is the true world underneath it. There is a realization which is fundamentally gobsmacking when you realize the emptiness of all things, and you realize that you don't exist in the way you think you exist. That birth and death doesn't exist in the way you think birth and death exists. That this present moment doesn't exist. That it can be a little bit scary. And it's different. But the realization that emerges from it is, yes, that's real and this is real. It's just a real and a little bit, it's like the dream you had last night is real. Is it real? We say, well, no, this is what's real. It wasn't the dream last night. What would that dream character last night say? All I know about is this, and this is where I am right now. It's me. I'm here. So the truth is all arises in our own minds. It doesn't exist on our own side, on its own side of things. And the more we give life to this conceptual universe, the more it becomes a story that we tell ourselves about what's happening, what will happen, what's happening right now. And the more we let go of that story and we open into the mind of not knowing, because that's the other side of it. The mind of not knowing doesn't mean being stupid. Mind of not knowing is, on one level, is all knowing. It's fundamentally different. It's not, it is being totally invested in this, that there is no separation from it. This becomes me. This literally becomes me. Or not me, but this is what there is. Without this separation of me doing that, more and more and more. And the more we open into this mind of not knowing, prajna, awareness, functions. It starts to function on its own. You find life doing very well without going along doing very well, manifesting its truth without me having to do so much about it. Well, that doesn't mean I don't sort of grouse and complain when I have to write a talk sometimes, but that's part of the fun of it too. The more prajna can act without these preconceived ideas and conceptual morality and ideology, which are all just sets of preconceived ideas. With these ideas, it's so interesting. We think we know so much. We have all of these views and opinions. How many of us really understand the implications and consequences of the finance department in Canada? So when I used to be a tax lawyer, we used to have people going back. People would be seconded back to finance to do the legislation, to carry out these ideas and turn them into legislation. I never got it. It was like a world unknown to me. How many of us truly understand the moral and ethical consequences of agricultural research? Well, we think we do. GMOs bad, organic good. Is that right? How about constantly taking minerals, chemicals, metals, precious gems out of the various activities of corporate America and Canada in general? All of these branches of human activity that take place daily and on some level are fundamentally necessary for us to live and function in this world, how they impact our lives. How could we hope to be able to judge all of these decisions and be wise in all times and places? So what then must we do? Look, see with open eyes without pre-existing views and judgments, bear witness, open into not knowing, and then from that ground, compassionate action will spring forth in response to the suffering that presents itself. What's required of us all in our very own life is to practice zazen, to practice this radical, open awareness, to open our heart, to open our eyes, to open our mind to what's happening right in the boat, to let go of this sick attachment we have to this idea that there is this separate, discrete little me in here at war with the rest of the world out there. and then to pick up the broom and start sweeping.